Welcome in, everybody. If you're here in this morning's live, first I apologize because I accidentally put on my live that it was starting at 10:25 and I wanted it to say 9:15 and I don't know why I put 10:25. I was kind of doing a couple things at once. My son was getting his feeding through YouTube and I was trying to do a couple things and I was setting up the live, so my bad. So it might take a minute for this to go around and that's my own fault. So I'm going to have to eat it if there's nobody in here. But be that as it may, if you're watching this before, if you're watching this after the live already has started, I just first want to say I greatly appreciate this audience. The members of Tom's Army, I really, really appreciate each and every one of you for sponsoring this program within each and every one of your, daily, monthly support in Tom's Army. If you're taking the classes starting February 2nd, I can't wait to start that whole journey. I think there's 17 or 18 people signed up right now. There's more information in the video description and or pinned comments. If you want to know more, just look on my YouTube homepage as well. It'd have a nice explanation. But for the here and now, if you do straggle in here, if you do come in here, whether it's before or after, make sure to hit that like button. If you're wondering why I have my hoodie on, it's -7 degrees. What is it right now? It was -8, but I think it's -5 now here in Michigan, so it's super cold. And I was just outside, so I'm cold. And it's super cold out today. Wind chill is -24 right now. It was closer to -30, but it's coming back to the other way now. So that's why I'm wearing my hoodie. Nothing to do with, the markets or anything like that. But we can get into the markets quickly. Good morning. 9:18 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on this Saturday, January 24th, 2026. I'm XRP Future Millionaire, and I reside in the great state of Michigan, the frozen state of Michigan here this morning. The coldest it's been in quite some time for this time. So our biggest thing right now, one, XRP, despite all of the signals that we might want to be looking into about it going up, despite all of the issues, despite all of the wants, we want this to go up. I want this to go up. We all want this to go up. Obviously, if you're looking for opportunity, you want it to go down if you have capital on the sideline, which I've taken a more defensive approach here, as I talked about in the Telegram. Because I want to see if the market is putting in bearish pennants, because if they are, it's a problem. But I still see for XRP, unless this breaks down, I can still see a potential breakout here. It's just we're starting to build what looks like to me a pennant. And if that's the case, we just got to be a little careful here. And I'm not saying that it's going to break down, but I just want to make sure in this exact moment on these charts that that's not the road we're going down. So I want to make sure that these don't form and these don't break down. A few of you found your way in. That's good. I'm glad a few of you were able to find your way in despite me putting the wrong time on here. Because I've seen a lot of people coming in and then they were just leaving, which I would too if I started somewhere and then it said it was going to start in an hour. Dan Marginal, good morning, along with the Ricci Farms. Thanks for being in Tom's Army 6+ months with the XRP Predictor. CJ2 Pilot, thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 2 years with the XRP 589 Moon Badge. Ben Graham, good morning. John Allen, appreciate seeing you in here. Crazy Paul, thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 1 year with the I Told You So Badge. Good morning. How about that silver? Oh, we'll get into silver that closed over $103 an ounce, which is pretty insane. Pretty insane. John Allen, I'm glad you're here this morning as well. I really appreciate it. Punda, good morning. Sola Jeffy, welcome in and thanks for being in Tom's Army 3+ months with the XP Meteor, along with Jason Blackburn. It's all an illusion. Thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 1 year with the I Told You So Badge. William and Poppy Lou, thanks for being in Tom's Army 6+ months with the XP Predictor. And John Wheat, good morning to you, friend. And GA Stormrider, thanks for being in Tom's Army 3+ months with the XRP Predictor or Meteor. I really appreciate it. So right now, just because we have to be cautious doesn't mean we can't break out. I really do believe if we can get over this setup, we could make a break. But we've got to get over this $1.94. If we could get over this $1.94, despite how cautious we are of how defensive we have to be, I still see an opportunity here if this does not, in fact, break down. I really do. It's just, you have to be so cautious here that I can't lead in with, hey, go buy now. First of all, I'm not a financial advisor. So you have to take this as a grain of salt anyhow. You know, but where it's at right now, a lot of the market did pull back a little bit. And yes, there's reasons to be concerned. Like to me, when I start seeing stuff like this reminds me of a bearish pennant with H bar. This is what actually makes me go, uh-oh. Uh-oh. You know, just the way it's set up. And it's in this expandable broadening wedge, I think. But what I think, like we talked about yesterday, is what if this from 10.8 actually falls out to 9.4 and then makes that volatile spike to clear out this downward leverage? Even though we already cleared out a very strong area in some of these assets, it almost feels like it's, with the way the momentum built up, it almost feels like it wants to send us back down. But if this integrity didn't break, I could certainly see a breakout to the top side, because eventually we're going to come back up. Because if this is a descending broadening wedge, or broadening, I keep saying broadening wedge, but in my head, I'm like, what if it's a broadening channel? Or what if, you know, if you measure this actually wasn't a hit, so it still needs to come into here at 9.3. So I kind of feel like maybe the market's starting to do that. The title this morning is not baiting at all. There's no baiting. The title is just, I wanted everybody to be understanding that we're in a dangerous spot and we must break above $1.94. I didn't want any second guessing, but that kind of a title in itself is going to have people on the defensive. So some people on a Saturday morning might not want to come in. Some people will. But I want to meet this head on what's happening. So I'm going to show you examples in the chart, like with H bar, of what could happen, even if this is an expanding broadening wedge. You know, even if it is, we'll say this is hit 1, this is hit 2, which means hit 3 should be, if we were to have fallout, would be around 9.2. So what I would be setting up for is not necessarily waiting for this breakout. I always want to be at the bottom of a pattern setup. And the fact that this could be a bearish, it's like a symmetrical triangle, but the way it's set up, to me, feels like a pennant. I know, it's a guessing game here. And pennants, when you draw them out, don't necessarily mean anything. I get it. But to me, within this pattern, it's kind of telling me that resistance, support, most immediate resistance, which means support is still working on hitting. I don't know. The path of least resistance for crypto suggests up because we cleared out some short support. But with the way silver's moving, it suggests to me that risk off is still in the line. And that means risk on is going to take a kick in the nuts here. And it did already. But I need to make sure that this doesn't have this fallout. I would much rather be in a defensive position here and pick it back up if it proves me wrong in certain assets. Because XDC was the same way. I'm a big proponent of it, but I talked about it. When it was coming back through here, if it didn't show promise and got rejected, I was not going to hold this back all the way back through. Only if it stayed on the top side here. And it's a tough decision, but now I'm sitting on the sidelines in a lot of ways. And I need these things to prove it to me. Otherwise, I'm going to get a spectacular deal back at the bottom of these expandable broadening wedges because it obviously broke out too early. It clearly broke out too early and built the head and shoulders double top. It had to have because, God, I love looking at these deeper. I hope I don't bore everybody this morning, but I'm literally so zoned in and locked in these markets right now that you're getting the best version of me in 2026. That's why we were able to nail that PLG move on the This audience was able to make a little bit of prosperity through the miners, and it was one of the ones that I thought had one of the best everyone we talked about in the last week and a half, 2 weeks that I thought was undervalued, especially, but I focused on PLG because it was having some weird volatile movements to the downside. And I believe platinum's going to catch up to gold because historically platinum's usually more expensive than gold. But look, in the stochastic and the 4 hourly, we seen this descending wedge forming. Or this it was just a nice setup here that was forming. We thought we'd get a little breakout in XDC, but what happened? It immediately formed a unbelievably bad double top. The Batman, the M topping reversal. It's a horrible look. And now it did the right shoulder pull down, which means if this is going to continue, this is going to shoot all the way down because we couldn't even hold neutral. And it's going to come all the way through, and it's going to come all the way back down to wherever this support was going to be on a back test. And this is why I like to overextend. This is how you get the inside out. But that's where it's going to end up trying to reinforce this now. And it's just the way this works. When you don't break out, it's a failed attempt. And again, I don't believe XDCs, I don't believe it's just an anomaly. I think it's showing us exactly what happens. When it went up, immediately following, the rest of the market went up. This went down, and all the market was still going up, and we're like, oh man, now we got to be defensive again. And XRP got up to what, $1.96 or whatever. And then all of a sudden, it's like it hit a brick freaking wall over here. This is exactly what XDC did. XDC got up, brick wall. And now to me, it's dangerous because I could make the case, and I know there's symmetrical triangles, but let me tell you, a lot of times these end up turning into bearish pennants with the way they're set up because they're on such a big trajectory if you bring this out into a longer scale. And it gets a little scary. And the only reason I kept this chart up like this is because I wanted you to see the descending area that we broke out of to the downside, and the technical target has not been filled. So we came up for rejection, another rejection. Like, we're in some tricky water here. I know everybody wants to give the illusion that we're super bullish here in risk assets, but in a bear market, you have to play the pattern, and the pattern suggests the trend is down. The trend, in fact, is not our friend in risk assets right now. So with the trend being down, we have to plan for that to break unless we get some confirmation of the upside. And when we went to $1.96, we said the problem here is there's no volume. Volume predicts price, which meant we had gone pretty much as far as we can go. Now we reconsolidated, trying to get a bigger base, near the $1.90, $1.88 to $1.90 zone. We're trying to pick up another base, or $1.90 to, around the $1.90. We're trying to pick up more of a base. Now, when you start looking at the base now, okay, well, Tom, how's the base looking? I'm glad you asked. So we had some trouble here, so we had a wick here, and we started trying to pick up a base here. Let's just look at this as, okay, guys, we went in, we had a lot of work to do, we brought a crew. Well, when we got there, we realized this crew's way too small. We're never going to get through this little area of the path of resistance. We need more help. So we came down here. So now that we come down into a smaller zone, is this now going to give us the ability to now break through? And when you're looking at this, you're going, okay, well, when we went up there, we didn't have enough to push through this resistance. So we came back down here and got a slightly bigger base. So we have downtrending resistance, downtrending support. What did we form? So now when we go in here, we've talked a lot about the pattern, and I've been saying what they are, but now you have down, trending, or how about this? You have lower highs, higher lows, form, triangle. So we've talked about the symmetrical triangle, but it's so hard to just, hey, there's different ones though. Like this, to me, you have the ascending, you have the descending triangles, you have a symmetrical triangle. You have the falling, actually this might be more of like a falling wedge that we're talking about right now, just because it converges to a lower support now. So I suppose now because it's that's almost like a, I don't know. See, that's why I call it a pennant with the way it's setting up. I don't like the way it's setting up. I might as well just go into the bearish pennant. Because this is, to me, this is all subjective when you start looking at it. It's the immediate part that bothers me. It's just the way it's setting up. It bothers me. And this is more like, this isn't the bearish part. This is the new immediate pattern we pulled up. But this could almost be forming like some kind of little wedge here. Which if we could push up over the immediate $1.90, well, we should push back and hit $1.94 if we break out. If we break down out of this, well, this is basically your make it or break it zone and this little micromanaging. I'm having a problem with what we're building around it. Like this part right here. That's the part I'm having a problem with because to me, this looks like a bear pennant. Like, look at this chart right here with the bear pennant. I'm sorry for confusing it with the smaller one, but we were looking at the smaller time frames. But look at the bear pennant, how that, just study that for a second, and then look at this chart. I mean, it gives me freakishly bad vibes of a bear pennant. I know it's not completely filled out, and we need this third hit. But Lord have mercy, if we hit down there again, that looks like a bear pennant. And I've been trying to convince myself that it's not a bearish pennant. But resistance, support, resistance, boom. Now, what if it does come down here? Like we went boom, 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 boom. What if it does? We hit resistance at the high point. And honestly, the worst part of this is we can't even really say that because if we pull this back, and this is where it gets scary, you've still got this overextended wick. So technically, you could say that this starts like this, comes up, comes down, comes up. You know, so technically, is that 1, 2, 3? Do we take that out and we go for the third over here? Like, it gets into a very scary proposition here if this is a bearish pennant. I'm just saying. I don't like bear pennants when they show up because that just means it's a continuation of the down trough. And I don't like continuations of the down trough if we're looking for some kind of bullish move. Like, I don't like bearish pennants when they show up at all. And I know I didn't focus on it as much yesterday. I talked about it, but the pennant is a problem, especially if it comes in like this. Well, I don't know, guys. It kind of looks like that's the way we came into this pennant. We had a nice head and shoulder. Like, look at that. That kind of doesn't look right. That looks like we're running into some problems here. Like we had a... What do you guys think? What do you guys think? Maybe I'm reading in too much into this being a bearish pennant. But I believe we're probably set up in a bearish pennant. And that's why I'm having evasive actions until it proves me that this ain't no bearish pennant. Although it could be a bullish pennant. There's that side of it. I don't know. It just... I don't want this to be in a pennant. How about that? I don't want this to be in a pennant. Is that fair? I don't want a pennant. So right now I'm going to give us the benefit of the doubt and say we still need one more hit on support. So, but yeah, that's what I'm afraid of right now. Sola Jeffy, good morning, says I'm bearish till full moon February 1st. Fair enough. And thanks for being in town on 3+ months with the XRP Meteor. Michael and Shane. Anyone expect copper to run? It seems like we're probably going to get into that kind of a play. Lori says, I believe we're at the bottom. That's why if we could break out of here, if we're at a bottom and start a new thing, that's what I want. That's why I keep saying I want this to break up because then we could start looking at it different. More of a shoulder, head, shoulder formation. As long as this doesn't break down. Even if it does, though, this is the thing, a nuance. $1.85. Where's this $1.85? So, I mean, that's leveled up here. So maybe it could round here and come back and tap that. If it did break out, maybe the only thing it would be telling us if it broke to the downside, that it would want to retest the break out of the falling wedge. But that's why it's so incredibly important that we don't break down here and prove that this is a pennant. If the pennant wasn't here, I'd be way more bullish right now. But just the illusion of that pennant and knowing we're in a downtrend, I need it to break out first this short term, which we should be out. I mean, if we have any kind of cajoles this weekend, we should be able to get out of here. I wouldn't have thought we would have had so much problems getting out of this small area if we have any kind of oomph. But, we'll see what kind of fortitude we can pull up this morning. Bitcoin's at 89,359, down $134. Nothing major. Could be a little bit in the hourly, a little bit of a, that's a nice little candle right there in the hourly. But this is another one where we just don't want to break down. We just don't want to break this down in a bad way. Because one could argue maybe if that, and these kind of patterns, everybody would, it's the illusion. Is this forming something that we need to be worried about? Or is this just to kind of try to trick our minds? Because it is trying to form like bearish pennants here, even on Bitcoin. And with the death cross down here, it's we got a lot of work to do here. We got a downward push on the stochastic right now. So like these are the targets if we break down. There's two different ones. Short target would be 86,600. Little longer target would be 86,651 out of this little bearish pennant if that's what it is. If not, then we would come back. If we break out of here, the immediate push is going to be up to about 91,700 range or so. Maybe 92,000. So, because we could technically still come up and form a shoulder. So, good morning, Michael, to you, my friend. Jason Blackburn, thanks for being in town for 3+ months with the XP Meteor, says, so the idea of selling now and buying back in later isn't exactly crazy. It's not that it's crazy, it's just where we're at. If it doesn't break down out of a pennant, then technically the opposite reaction would happen. And we do have a little bit of upward volatility that could come out of this. It's just right now, we don't know. It's not crazy, but this is one of those areas where there's technically enough steam from the 96% in balance or 94% in balance on an XRP chart where we liquidated a majority long. Out of almost 50 billion or over $50 billion, 94% of that money was from long traders. So there was a long squeeze, which means conventional wisdom would say, now we have a short squeeze, but conventional wisdom never usually talks about the second tap of liquidity on that wick before we do the short squeeze. So I wouldn't be surprised if they dropped it down and these pennants are not faking us out and these are actually something that we need to pay attention to, is all I'm saying. I want that pennant to be proven wrong, and I want my emotion to be proven wrong. It's not emotion. My emotion says, hey, it's going to break out. My gut says, hey, man, that's a pennant there, and you're a technical person. So if it's going to break out, at least let it break to the top side. That's all I'm saying. So we need at least the illusion that we can foster some kind of rally. Now, like I said, I'm looking for that push out. Like I've given you every reason why it can, but I'm still giving you the cautionary tale. And I'm not a financial advisor, so I guess whatever I say is really a moot point. But it is what I look at, the way my mind works. And after all, you're in here because you want to know what I'm thinking, I imagine. And that XRP Future Millionaire stands strong to me because it's helped me and everybody else in this community. We've been able to, through XRP, been able to make expanding positions and other things with the gains we've had over the years when we had to sell out from bull to bear. And it's allowed us to have a pretty sizable portfolio in mining stocks, a sizable amount of physical gold and silver from the 21 rally, so we could buy in 22 for the gold and silver bullion. From the rally in 24, we were able to buy mining stocks in early 25. You know, it's just XRP's allowed us a lot of viability. Some people are like, XRP future millionaire, and you sold it, and they come in late because yes, I sold some that I bought from 38 cents back in July that I wasn't going to have in 24, and I took 5,000 out of cash that was sitting there for miners, and I ended up using it on XRP, and but that money was for miners. So when it went up and we broke $3 and got to 350 and plus, you know, I had to reshuffle my money from the rest of the crypto rally. Then I was able to redo my house, basically do my kitchen, redo my floors, have my walls painted. I had just have some stuff fixed because my house, when I bought it, it was built in 1954. So I was able to do like $80,000 in repairs and things like that that needed to get done in a really bad way. New windows and things like that. But I still have my 34-cent bag of XRP, and I don't expect that to change anytime soon. But I do not care about a 34-cent average. I will be Mystique. I just won't speak of it. And I will, when it gives me the opportunity, sell it and rebuy it back. Sell it and rebuy it back. And who knows, maybe I've done it before in the past. Because now do you have a 34-cent average? And this is my argument. If you bought something at 34 cents, you sold it at $3, right? And then you bought it back at $1.80. Do you have a $1.80 average, or did you buy more tokens and now you got 12,000, 13,000 tokens, and now instead of a 34-cent average, you go backwards because you got free tokens? Like, that's where I've never heard the exact argument. Obviously, with taxes is another thing, so you have to understand, like, sometimes it's not an apples to apples. Like, sometimes the reason I don't sell that other bag is because you take that tax hit, and if you're going to have it long term, why do you keep taking that same hit over and over and over? That's the other part of it. So, you know, but I don't want to get into that because that makes people leave, because then they say, oh, but it's true. There's different ways to look at this. Joseph Weiler, thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 1 year with the I Told You So badge. And thanks for gifting a sub as well. JC Juten, welcome back into Tom's Army for your second month with the Dust is Out House Crypto News. Thanks to the generosity of Mr. Euler. Very, very, very much appreciated. Very much appreciated. Plant Good Seas and John Hall, good morning and thanks for being in Tom's Army 3+ month with the XRP Meteors. Plant Good Seas says, if Andy Dufresne can crawl through 500 yards of sewage, we can get through this to financial freedom. Have a good day. I agree with that. That's true. That is very true. Oh, Lori, you believe we are not at the bottom. I'm sorry, I said it wrong. Yes, I agree with you. I believe we're not at the bottom as well. It doesn't mean we can't go up here, but I definitely think the bottom's lower, especially with Bitcoin as well. Unless we break out with volume. If we break out with volume, then I can reassess. Cannabis Podcast, welcome in and thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 1 year with the I Told You So badge. You just never know. That is so true. Make sure you guys go follow the Cannabis Podcast as well. You know, sorry, Cannabis Podcast. I have a hard time convincing people to watch my content right now, let alone trying to get them to watch somebody else's. But I try. You know, we're in that time. But right now, we're in a spot. I'm telling you this morning, we are in a spot. If we could somehow retake 194, we're actually set up in an inverse pattern. So I would not be shocked if it pushed out here. So, you know, it has to do it for us. You know, we just have to see some proof here that we can push out this morning. And yeah, is it a little bit discouraging that XDC legitimately broke down? Yes, it is, because it actually is in the exact same kind of a setup as the rest of these, and it's not demoralizing, but it's XDC saying, if you guys will just watch me, I'm making sure that you don't have to do a lot of work here. I'm ahead of the markets, good or bad. When we get to the reversal at some point, I'm going to be the first one to do it. I'm on a different setup than the rest of the market. I've officially decoupled from the way the rest of the market's moving, because even when the market's moving up, I move away from it. It's true. XDC is starting to decouple from the market movements. And that doesn't mean it's going up. It means it's on an opposite time frame right now. It really is. So right now, if we go from a low to a higher low, if something's building, you have low 0.1 extension, low 0.2. Now this has to expand out, and this is going to have to be the and out. So now you have to honor this. If we want this to start expanding out and start to be an expandable uptrend, it needs to break out now. This cannot afford to go because then it's just going to come down here. So this needs to use this as a new support structure for XDC. Otherwise, the continuing drain is going to continue. It's just going to continue if this happens. And nobody wants to say it. I don't want to, but it's like shoulder, head, shoulder. It's so obvious, which means it's not done. But then again, it came all the way down here, but then it just formed a shoulder. Does that mean it has to reset? Does that mean we can power out and then we actually have some big ass pattern? I don't know, but I'm definitely watching it. You know, shoulder, head, shoulder, very creatively. That's why I'm looking to see if we get a sneaky breakout. Everybody wants to leave the live today because they assume bearish. You know, they assume. It's amazing. Most people would pay for this information, but when you give it to them for free, they just leave. Isn't that kind of funny? If I was charging for this and I had like a seminar, people would be sitting here getting their notebooks out and writing. But because they come in here and they say, oh, this guy's an asshole, it's free, blah, blah, blah. The majority don't pay attention. And then they come back later and say, well, how did you know PLG was going to go up? How did you know XRP was going to move in that direction? Well, that's because I've been watching this since March 24th of 2021, and you should too. Otherwise, the ones who come in and give me the tomfoolery, but they've been watching it for 3 days, you know, there's no such thing. There's no such thing. So right now, we could be here in the moment when we can break out of a structure. We could be here in the moment when it breaks down out of a structure. You know, we can be here in the moment, the most important parts. Right now, stochastic is moving up. Decent sign for the short term. You know, we'll see how fast this gets eaten up if we do, in fact, rally up. At the very least, you know, $1.94, try to retest that area. This consolidation area, in theory, was just that. It's supposed to consolidate us up. And then you got to be very cautious if we were to come below that $1.91, obviously, because then it's going to start reworking this. But right now, it's doing pretty much what it should do inside of this short-term consolidation on a Saturday morning in a thinly traded market at that. 4 hourly's trying to put in a reversal candle. Still has this inverse setup. Yes, there's optics here, obviously, that I'm very closely watching. But I like opportunity, like the next person. It's just, you know, we got to make sure there are opportunities here and not breaking down. That's all. Because that would be a pretty steep drop if this actually broke down from here. What's the one thing that makes you a little bit more nervous about it? The fact we had this 4-hour wick breakup and it just ate it all back up. That's one thing. What's one thing that makes me comfortable? We ate this whole wick up and we barely dumped out. So, but we're at the bottom of this resistance. We have a death cross. The 100 just about to cross the 200 for the ultimate confirmation that this is a short-term reversal again to the downside. The trend is not our friend for a very long time. So in a symmetrical triangle, basically, maybe, is what's starting to set up here potentially in the wider scale, which means it's just a neutral continuation pattern, but the trend is not our friend right now, and it's to the down direction. So that's how you get down to 74,000 and some change. So there's a lot of things we need to change up. Maple Man, good morning. Tom, with the CME price closing, I can see XRP going sideways till Monday. Then we have to hang on and see what happens. Yes and no. A lot of times what ends up happening is you have some volatility from Saturday into Sunday, and then it starts to shake itself into the normal passion or the normal movement by Sunday evening. But we're in a window right now. We're in a very volatile window right now, and I wish I could just say, hey, I can guarantee we're going to go up from here. You know, I wish I could say that. I can't say that. I know we have an optic, but when you start looking at all of these, and we've got to make sure, we just have to make sure that this is not happening. That's all I can say. We have to make sure that we don't have something like that bearish pennant forming, because even with algo, we have what looks like the emergence of a bearish pennant. And I'm not going to get caught with my pants down until this proves that we're not going to fall out and we're going to get back into this channel. Because if this is a bearish pennant, which we already got rejected here on the bottom, if this is a bearish pennant, that just is something that forms after a move up. We've exhausted ourselves in too big of a way. We don't have enough steam. And then it often forms a bearish pennant. Like, we don't have to be afraid of that. Okay, fine. Forget about the bearish pennant. It often forms a pennant of indecision. I'd say it's pretty damn accurate about this. We form that. We have a flagpole. I mean, we have it all set up. The flagpole would simply be, if you look into it in a higher time frame, it's a lot easier to see. But you have a flag like this. This would be your flag. You could even do like this. Although I would consider it right there where we drop down. But anyhow, to each their own. I'm not going to kill you either way. I don't care how you draw it out. But I just want to make sure we pay attention that that is a pennant. Whether or not it breaks down or not, that's a pennant. And in the current setup, it seems to suggest that it could be a bear pennant. But the only good news is we dropped out so far over here that maybe we could claim that it was like maybe, I don't know. It's a stretch either way to try to make it bullish until it breaks to the top side. So I'm not going to do it. I'm going to keep calling it a bearish pennant until proven otherwise. Mr. and Mrs. Stott, welcome in, and thank you so much for being a part of the show. 3+ months with the XRP Meteor. And the generosity, I don't really want to talk about it, but thank you so much for thinking of me. And you're the first person to send me something in quite some time. I appreciate it. That means a lot to me. Mr. and Mrs. Stott, thank you so much. So what do we think, guys and gals and everybody in between? You know, it's a new day, new world. I guess in South Park, Gerald wasn't far of a stretch when he turned into a dolphin. Remember back in the day? We're getting dolphins all over the place now in this world. If you know what I mean. But do we honestly think that these markets are forming bearish pennants? Like, do we think that it's sitting over us, or do we think that I'm generally honestly interested to hear what my audience thinks. I am generally, honestly, and downright curious to know what this audience thinks. I am. And you know what the beauty of this is? If it's a bearish pennant, it doesn't have far to break up. Like I said, XRP only needs to get above $1.94. No big deal. If it's trying to disprove us. No big deal at all, ladies and gentlemen. No big deal. It's not like I'm asking it to move the mountain. I'm barely asking it to move across the freaking street. Same with Bitcoin. I'm not asking it to move mountains. I'm just asking it to get on the roof of its own house. That's not very far. That's like maybe 15 feet off the ground. Get a ladder. 10 feet. So Bitcoin, all I'm asking it to do is get out, or not Bitcoin, the total crypto market cap, get above 3 trillion. I mean, it shouldn't be that hard. We're at 2.986 trillion. That is not a far push. I think it's an astute observation to say that until these aren't in bearish pennants, we just observe. We pay attention. We make sure that it's not trying to drop us in the you-know-what. In the old Scorsese's, as we like to say around here, in the old grotesque, since it's a family-friendly show. We want to make sure that that's not happening to us. After all, I don't want it to happen to us. Do you guys want it to happen to us? Do you want to get kicked in the Scorsese's? I don't want to. I've been kicked in them enough. Not today. Not in 2026. But it's like, just prove to me that that's not what it looks like. Just prove to Tom, to XRP Future Million, and this beautiful and loving community, that this is not a bear pennant. It's not asking a lot. The total 3, all it has to do is get above 853 billion. I mean, we're at 844. It shouldn't be that much. I am not positive it's starting to feel manipulated at to the point that I'm not sure it's not all choreographed, but I can take a beating and wait. Oh, it's all choreographed. There's no that's I don't even have to second guess that. This is all by design. Is it by design that every single one of these charts are building the same kind of pattern, whether they fall out or break out? How can we break over 3 trillion if you don't put your hat on? Fair point. And some people are calling the speculation even deeper because they said the only day I wore my hat for those 1.5 days is when the market rallied. And then when I took it off during the live, immediately when I took it off during that live is when the market started reversing. And I told you that's a pure coincidence that was going to happen. Because when I took the hat off, I said, don't read into this when the market starts to drop. My head, I just don't want to wear the hat. And I was saying, don't read into it. And just like the day before, I said, don't read into it. I know the market is dropping when this starts to go up just because I put my hat on. I swear I don't control the market by my hat. And now people are saying, well, you took your hat off and it's been red since. Well, I'm sorry about that, but the mystique of the magic in the hat is only as far as let's see. Who else? It's all an illusion. Thanks for being in Towns Army over 1 year at the I Told You So Bad with the Cannabis Podcast. You're on a roller coaster with pre-built twists, turns, rises, and drops. Just lock in and hodl. Lock in and hodl is one philosophy, all right. But you got to hodl from the right spot. See, I believe timing the market is way more important than timing or time in market. But timing the market properly allows you the time in market that we all desire. Let that sink in. Timing the market is way more important than time in market, but timing the market properly will give us the desired time in market that we crave. It's true. Oh, it's damn true, like Kurt Angle used to say. After all, he won the Olympic gold medal with the broken freaking neck, right? We can stagger this market. We can look at this market. I can look at this market. I like looking at this market. I like looking at it in the good and bad. It's just like I always say, and I've been saying more in 26. I'm too damn young to get complacent now. So I don't want to be comfortable. I want to be very uncomfortable. Because when I'm uncomfortable, it makes my head spin and it makes me try to figure out a solution. So the more uncomfortable I get, the better product you will receive. There might be people that come and go, but we're not old enough. None of us, even my friends that are in their 70s watching me right now, you're not old enough. You've still got some viability left. And if you go by the theory, one that I am prescribing by more and more, that they're stealing about 30 seconds a day from us, which equates to about 2 hours a year, which can equate to several years in a lifetime. Think about it. Maybe that's why everybody looks younger. Like if I look at myself at 42 and go look at somebody who was 42 as an actor or an actress, they look like they're 70. So I wonder if there's more truth to that than I've ever thought about. That they actually steal the seconds each day. Who would know 30 seconds a day? Who would actually know? Like when those times, it looks like time standing still. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. Oh no, I didn't sell nothing in PLG. I think this is just the start. There's no way I'm selling these right now. My mining stocks, we're just breaking out. Like we're literally just breaking out. And I know that it can be a long road, but PLG with the kind of and I know it sounds crazy with these miners, but that's my conspiracy with PLG. So there is not a chance in hell that I'm selling when I think this is the head formation that we're breaking out of. No way in hell. I think this is going up to $30 plus in time. And this is going to be one of the soundest purchases. It's like, remember when we were talking about First Majestic, for anybody who knows, down at $4 when we were buying it. And I said, guys, I can't wait till it's at 20, 25, and then 30 and 60. It sounded stupid when I said it at 4, but now it's at 25. It doesn't sound so stupid now, does it? Or I don't even have them on here, but Pan America Silver's up to 60 something. We were buying it at the low 20s and high teens. Heckler was in the $4 range. It's at like 32 right now. I only don't show that because it's gone up so far now. It's off the radar. But like Fortuna was down at just about $9 and it was in a perfect spot. And it's just breaking out of its historical resistance. And this is a massive ascending triangle. You got the base flat resistance, an uptrending support, which instead of it being a rising wedge, which would be designed like this or more like this is a flat support. So you can't even claim that it's a rising, like you could say rising triangle if it was more up, but this is a flat support, which makes it a beautifully awe-inspiring ascending triangle, in my opinion. That's about to break out, and the technical target's $67. So some people laugh at me, but we're going to have a big drop somewhere, but you got to remember the pricing for miners is based on the old relic. These mining stocks like Fortuna, this was the price when it was at $20. It's over 100. 100. Let me repeat that, 100. So what we're looking at, crypto that looks like ass, and we have to go with the trend is not our friend, with gold, silver, mining stocks, platinum, and the precious metals. The trend is our friend, and until that uptrend breaks, we're vertical right now. Like silver up 7.3% for everything that crypto's not. And I said a few months ago, I've said it over and over repeatedly. I even think I said it again this week. I think the distraction was, in fact, crypto, while the real wealth transfer to take place was in the real sound money, gold, silver, mining stocks, platinum, palladium. I mean, you can go into anyone you desire. And they had us looking in crypto, a risk asset, which made no sense. And I've been saying it since January. We're in a bear market. I don't care if we come up in double top. We're in a bear market, and the trend is going to go down. We're going to take the elevator up and take the stairs down. And that's exactly what we've done. And now it's like we're expecting silver to break down. The problem is the only area I seen that we could break down, and it went back to 69, was when we hit this resistance and we talked about 69, or where was it at? Up here. Over here was the same thing. Yes, it hit up here, but our floor became less and less because we keep building these bullish consolidations. And we've done it every step of the way. Bullish consolidation, bullish consolidation, bullish consolidation. Now, is this doing it again? It did in a wider way, but they're building bullish. So when it did this, it's like, we can't sell. You can't sell it when it's doing this. We're vertical. We are vertical. This year alone, silver's up over 42% since January 1st. And it's like everybody's ripping their freaking hair out to buy crypto when in the same year to date, XRP is up 4.2%, which is great. But there's been a lot of kicking yourself in the dick trying to get there if you're trying to be up. Up 9%. Up 8% year to date. But over the last year, we're down 70%. So where does it end? Year to date, we're up 42% in silver, but over the last year, we're up 238%. Like literally, if we would have just faded crypto and just invested in metals and silver, and now when everybody starts to fade crypto, if we drop again, you start to reinvigorate into crypto. And like there's spots where you can buy, like there's spots in metals where, yes, it didn't seem like it, but we even looked at Dolly Varden with these drops. Remember when it came down to the bottom of this ascending, what we thought was a wedge or an ascending what? Look, and we said that if it comes down here, that would be the buy because it looks like it's on an inverse pattern. We're breaking out of all time patterns. And when it came down there, what did we do? I doubled my Dolly Varden from 1,000 to 2,000 in this consolidation. And that was an opportunity. And now if it breaks out, we're off to the freaking races. Fortuna Silver Mine, same thing. I doubled my holdings so recently that it makes me scared that I actually did it. When we came down to the bottom and we were forming this pattern, I didn't know what the hell it was. It looked like it could have been a rising wedge, but when you start to look at it a little deeper, you start to be like, maybe that's just a rising triangle. But I think the doubling happened somewhere I don't remember where it was at. But it was a perfect breakout opportunity where silver's at, and because that's just the short side of the pattern, this entire pattern, and it's so exciting to talk about. I know a lot of people couldn't give a rat's ass about precious metals and miners, and most of them leave who are watching, but I care. So in 26, I care, so you're watching. Either you do or you don't. But this I keep talking about this one because we've been doing this for a decade. I've been watching this for a long time, do this. I told myself this was I told myself a long time ago with the miners, with gold and silver, this is the way. And like somebody said, the bond market, my prediction was that rates would go up, even though we cut them by a quarter basis point. Now, all of a sudden, the US 10 years up a quarter basis point, even though we cut them by a quarter basis point, which means your saving rate is going down, but to borrow money, it's going up. Let me say that again. To loan out money and collect a percentage is going down by 1/4 of a percentage point. But to get a loan, it's actually gone up by one. That means it's inverted. That is so bearish when it's inverted. It should make you want to chop your own head off. But we talked about this yesterday. Where is this chart? We drew it out. It just, I guess it deleted. But these are, I mean, if this breaks up, we got some problems here in the 10-year. I mean, some big problems. And it looks like it's getting ready for something. We'll see if it falls back and fades down and they buy up, because the reverse repo is probably on fire this weekend, let me tell you. US dollar continues to fade down under 98 clean and look like it's getting ready to just, we circled it. We circled it. Now we're in the money zone. Now we are in the money zone. Can we come down to 95 and break it finally? Remember how I had my target on the gold silver ratio and how it's being nailed right now? This, if it would have come up, we could have done it from the top, but it's actually from lower. But it's still the same. It's the same relevance. It actually makes this target lower because it only came to here. So, I mean, how far is this actually going to fall out? So, this is the first area. This is our projection. So, when we used to have it out, this, if it falls out here, we're projecting this to come all the way down into here. We're going to come down and retest. Now, we are looking at the possibility that maybe it could have come back up and retested. The fact it fell out, if it then the key is 95. If it falls out at 95, one could argue that it's only got one more saving grace to make something like this even possible, which I don't think is possible. I think the US dollar is falling out to die. We're finally falling outside that rising channel. But I want to see us come all the way back down to the bottom of this entire setup. Could you imagine if this entire setup, this is finally resistance here that we've been waiting for, and now it's all hell breaks loose? If we lose 1/3 in the US dollar, I always say gold and silver is not going up. The US dollar's value is just going down. So you take that for what it's worth, but can a risk asset dominate in this environment? Yes, it can, but volume needs to rotate in. So again, before I leave here this morning, it's not over yet for crypto. Not yet. I know everything seems bad, but it hasn't broken down yet. And if we break out of this pennant, this short-term pennant, not the longer one, just the short-term one this morning, it'll open us the door to at least get up to this next layer. Well, actually, this one's a more bullish consolidation in the short. Well, it's a neutral continuation, or a neutral pattern. But what we're looking at is the wider one, which is at $1.94, this part. That started up here on January 19th. Then we had here on the 20th, and 21st, and 21st. And then we hit here on the 23rd. Now is it going to, this is our pennant. That's the deciding factor. Silver saved us from a coming eviction, but it's not enough to up income of greenbacks to afford upgrading. So we sit, which is okay. Sure, took out the... Yeah, that is so true, Lori. That is so true. Because it's... Man. No, Cannabis Podcast, the only reason I would say you don't take all of your crypto now and put it in the silver is because of, look how parabolic it's went. And I know crypto looks bad, and I know we can go a lot further. But in my opinion, if you were going to do that, you just would sit it on the sidelines for a minute because you think that there's going to be depreciation. I can make an argument here that we're still going to break up, but obviously it has to meet a metric of not being a pennant right now, because that does scare the living cahoolies out of me. I've been down this road before. And in the past, there's been times when I overlook it and say, nope, I'm not, there's nothing there. I'm not doing that no more. If it shows me a bearish pennant, or just a pennant, let's just call it a pennant. I think the bearish part of it throws people off. But let's prove whether or not this pennant can break out bullish or bearish. Because that, guys, it doesn't matter if you want to acknowledge it. With the way it's set up, that's a pennant. Now, you can argue all you want what kind of a pennant it is, but, and this is why I have some hope, because we do have a small flagpole, but that's suggesting the trend is coming up. The problem with is even when we have that big wick down and a little flag up, the trend was still coming down towards us. So, you know, we can call this and be like, hey, it came here and bounced up. Well, sure we could. Sure we could. But as you start to put this into higher time frames, it's not as relevant. You know, so it is what it is. We can call dog shit a Snickers bar, but if it smells like shit, it looks like shit, you stop in it and it crushes like shit, it ain't a Snickers bar, no matter how much you want to tell yourself it is. You know, it's shit. So this pennant, until it proves to us we can get outside of it, because I can do this. I understand. I can go, well, Tom, look at this. Hey, boss, it's more like this. Well, then prove it. Prove it. Prove that that's not a just stationary wick that broke us out. I would rather look at it that way and have it prove it than look like the schmuck. I want to look like a schmuck this morning. So all I'm telling it to do is prove it. It's not a lot. Believe me, I'm not giving it a big and tall agenda. 21.4 cents is all I'm asking for XLM. It's at 21.16 cents for crying out loud. I'm not asking to jump the moon. I'm not asking for this market to, you know. Maple Man says, yup, it's shit. You're fabulous. Oh, yeah, this is a family-friendly show. But, you know, sometimes you got to make a correlation. But Ethereum, still on the outside of this at least. Like, at least for me, for Ethereum, and I gave it the benefit of the doubt and said, hey, Ethereum, you can do this. But now if you look at it farther and grander, it's at least on the outside. But then someone will say, Tom, why are you looking at it like this? And I'll say, okay. And then I'll say, well, Tom, why don't you look at it like this? Because, guys, if I look at it like that, then it turns it into a bearish pennant. See what I'm saying? I tried to give you the benefit of the doubt that it was outside of it, but they crushed me. So now I got to give you the reality. Do you really want me to tell you that 4-hour candle might have put it into a bearish pennant when we had that nice little run up? Is that what you want to hear this morning? That this actually was the nail in the coffin maybe, and the third tap here at a 3,000 rejection would be the bearish pennant confirmation? No, you don't want to hear that. No. But I've told this audience for a long time, like when I first came into crypto, I was a seasoned veteran in precious metals, mining stocks, gold and silver, the commodities, agriculture, and emerging, and that kind of stuff. But mainly gold, silver, mining stocks is where I made my separation in my own life. Where I went from a loser to understanding. Where I literally took a couple $100 a month and started investing in the metals at 16, 14 for silver, you know, 1,400, 15, 16, 18 with gold. And looking back on it, those were the single greatest steps because those are what allowed me to understand the real savings. Putting it in the bank wasn't a savings. I was losing money each and every day, each and every year without even realizing it. I still got the same $10,000 sitting there. Well, now it's only worth $9,000 from a year ago. Well, what the hell? You know, so that was a big step. So I used to tell everybody in this community, I know you watch me for crypto, but if you just listen to me for mining stocks and precious metals, you're never going to have to worry about a thing anymore. Because not only are we going to counter that side, which is real money, real money, but we're going back to a gold stand across the board, kind of a standard. With crypto, with the risk asset, now all of a sudden we build the backbone there. And every time we have significant profit and we go back to a bear market, you build your own central bank and you rinse and repeat. You have a little bit more each time, whatever you want to have for the next time around. That's the trick. my dad, he talked about how he had so much for me, my brother and sister for when, you know, when he passes away. And I begged him when gold was at 1900 to put it in gold. I said, Dad, with the way you have it set up, I'm going to have to pay a tax on it. So is my brother and sister. And if you just put it in gold, buy this gold bar for the same amount. Just buy it for the same amount. And if you ever need to use it, it's yours. I don't even want it. But at least you have it there. And at the time, it would have been like $100,000 bar of gold, is what I told him to buy. Instead of putting it in this, you know, as his, because he wants to give us each a little bit. And then if there's more, obviously, but he's trying to do that, which is nice because we started with nothing. So it'd be a pretty interesting feat if he could actually do what he said. So, which he's going to be able to. But I wanted him to put it in gold. And at the time, gold was 1900. And I called him days on end and begged him, Dad, you don't need to do it for Rachel and Vince's, but please put mine in a bar of gold. I'll take the risk. Just put it in money. And then when you pass away, all I have to do is take the gold out of the vault. Out of your own vault. And he didn't do it. And now gold went from 1900, mind you, to, makes me cringe sometimes, 4,009. If he would have just listened to me, my $100,000 would be worth 250, 60. So I know a thing or two about a thing or two that nobody cares about. I always know things about things that the normal person couldn't give a rat's ass about. Crypto's good, but the normal person that wants to be a gambler cares about crypto because they think it's a casino, which it is. But they don't look at real money. They don't look at, hey, industry says we need a lot of silver for conducting. We need a lot of it for batteries, and we need a lot of it for electronics, and we need platinum for this. And gold, yeah, it's a great conductor, but really gold is too expensive to use in all of these kind of things. So that's why we need silver. That's why we need platinum. That's why we need copper. Not so much platinum because it's expensive as hell as well. But that's why you need things like silver and copper. And mostly silver because gold's too expensive, but we need gold because it's so having an extreme amount of silver takes up too much space. And for anybody who's a stacker knows, silver can take up a lot of space and it's really heavy, which is why you look for those convertible times in history. A lot of my silver was bought between 80 and 110 to 1 in the gold silver ratio, almost all of it. And right now, with it being what, 50 to 1, what did it end up on Friday? 48.2 to 1, down 5.8%. Everybody wants to switch it at 40, not me. I'm waiting for it to get that. Everybody talks about the historic levels of 35 to 1. You're missing out. In Roman times in 3000 BC, it was 2 to 1 to gold. I know we're going back to BC, but I have a found history. Going back to the early to late 1800s, early 1900s, we got down to like 12 to 1 in the late 1800s. That's what I'm desiring. I don't care that they only take you have to look at the gold silver ratio on a chart and it only goes back to like 95. That's not what I'm talking about. That's not the ratio I'm talking about. I know the Romans times when it was 2 to 1. I know in the late 1800s, a couple hundred years ago, that it was 12 to 1. On our chart, people always tell me, well, Tom, the lowest it's ever been on the gold silver ratio is 38 to 1 or 39 to 1. And I always laugh. Or what is it? What does it show on here? 30 to 1. I'm always like, what are you talking about? What about the Roman times when it was 2 to 1? What about in the great times in the 1800s when it was under 10 to 1 and like 12 to 1? Telling you, back in the Roman times, it was that low. I don't know where I can show you proof, but I could try. Well, maybe it's farther than Roman times. But look, at least in the Roman, I meant for the 12 to 1. But that's where it was 12 to 1 to 15 to 1. was way back. The earliest record of a standard gold silver means the first king of ancient Egypt who set the ratio at 2.5 to 1. So there you go, 2.5. That's 3200 BC. I said 3000 BC, so I was pretty damn close. So isn't that great information? This is why I need to do silver shows again, because I really want to go into the gold silver history. I'm going to do another gold silver stacking video, or the gold silver video. And I'm going to talk about these historical ratios. Yeah, that was in the Egyptian times when it did the 15 to 1. That was the Egyptian times. I think it talked about it in here somewhere. I can't remember where it said it. But that goes to ancient Egypt when it was the 15 to 1 ratios. And then because of President Roosevelt, he screwed it all up. But anyhow, it was at 98 to 1 in 1939, but 3200 BC, before Christ existed, or before the Christ era, you can say whatever you want to talk about. It was 2.5 to 1. That is not made up. It's not made up. I'm not making that up. So, the gold-silver ratio relationship. So the history, the ratio is the oldest continuously tracked exchange rate in history. In the beginning, it was set by government for monetary stability. But since the middle of the 20th century and the abandonment of the gold standard, which I think we're going back to as countries are getting rid of the US dollar and buying massive amounts of gold, it has fluctuated with the market. The earliest record of a standard gold-silver ratio comes from the Minas, the first king of the ancient Egypt, who set the ratio. No, it was Egypt was the lower one, but the king of the Romans, sorry, I mixed it up. The Egyptian time with the king of Egypt had a 2.5 to 1, and Roman times it was set at 15 to 1, roughly, I believe. Unless I'm mixing it up, there's two different ways to look at this. Ratio at 2.5 to 1, 3200 BCE. Following that, there were Rome. See, ancient Rome, where the ratio is set 8 to 1 in 210 BC, and by Julius Caesar, 11.5 to 1 in 46 BC. And in the Common Era, shows a 14.2 to 1 in 1305, a 12 to 1 in 1450s, and 15 to 1 as the U.S. government fixed the rate of exchange with the Coinage Act of 1792. So even the U.S. government was 15 to 1. So everybody says that 30 to 1 is the lowest. Yeah, if you look at the record of the gold-silver standard, where you can look at it on a chart, but a lot of people stop there. That's not even close. Even in our own recorded history, it's not close. So, yeah. So maybe I'll do a video on all of the history of silver and the ratio and things like that, going all the way to 3200 BC, and we'll front run it all the way forward. The real rate of value, if you do the rate of inflation for silver, I think it's $200 and something per ounce. It's not by coincidence that last Saturday, 1 week ago, the U.S. Mint, as we got back to 0 degrees, we've gained 5 degrees since I've been live. As the U.S. Mint revalued the cost of new silver eagles to $175 an ounce. That's not by accident, folks. There's a reason for that. So,
to determine the true value of silver adjusted for inflation, you have to look at the two most significant historical peaks, 1980 and 2011, and see what those dollar amounts would represent in today's purchasing power. As of January 2026.
So, if you believe the 1980 peak was a fair market reflection despite the Hunt brothers' influence, which is all bullshit, by the way, if you look into the Hunt brothers, that is such an overblown pile of horse shit, manure. That's all fabricated. That's the Fugazi. The 1980s is a big Fugazi in the U.S. government. That's a Fugazi. That never happened. The Hunt brothers' influence is not how they describe. Go look at history. I should do a story on the Hunt brothers. I don't know if anybody would watch it, but I really should, and I could tie it into the gold-silver ratios. But the Hunt brothers, they were used as a political point as some of the bigger, deeper shorters like JP Morgan, the WAF, and some of these other, well, I don't want to get into it, but some of these other beautiful entities influenced the price of silver and they blamed it on the Hunt brothers. It is so not true. But if you believe the official numbers, the value relative to the dollar is currently, so silver's true value relative to the dollar is currently around $185. If you believe the official inflation numbers are rigged or understated, that number climbs to $300 to $450 per ounce. So at a minimum, it's $185 an ounce. Is it a coincidence that the U.S. Mint just raised 1 week ago silver eagles to $175? I don't think so. Where there's smoke, there's fire. And there's a reason why since Trump got into office, they've talked about crypto capital of the world. Buy crypto and you'll be rich. Because guess what? The easiest purchase of our life was all you had to do was understand the economy, real money. All you had to do was be a market strategist. All you needed to do was understand your own analyst. You just needed to understand what the markets were. You needed to understand what a real money was, what real value is derived from. I'm sorry, but mining a fake block is not real value. Sending money from point A to point B, any idiot can do that. I don't even need crypto to do that. Now, here's the truth. I can use Cash App and send money in real time, or I can use any money transfer thing like Venmo, like PayPal, Cash App, your banking where you actually have, like, for us, we have Zelly now, or whatever the hell they call it now, on different banks. You don't need crypto to send money from point A to point B. They infiltrated that technology and put it in to, you guessed it, the PayPals, the Venmos, the Cash Apps. They did. So that's not the importance of crypto. Crypto is so that we don't have to have a national debt. And I hate to break it to everybody, but the whole derived value is the fact that they're going to be able to put an artificial number in front of our screen. And that's why they don't want us to have paper money anymore. So they can derive a value from something that's not even there. It's just like when they print money. And my question is, with quantum computing meeting AI, how long does it take, and it's already happening, before they're sophisticated enough, which they already are, where they do fake blocks? It makes it look like they've got all this Bitcoin or all these other things when they're mining these fake blocks. And they put these fake artificial blocks onto the market, which I think is already happening. And before you know it, this whole thing comes unglued. And yeah, we're going to have a 10 or 15 or 30x move, but where does it come from? Like, are we going to have a 10x move where we fall completely to the floor and XRP goes down to all-time gaps or goes down to an all-time level? Like, I don't know where it comes from. Yeah, paper silver is trash because it can be manipulated, but real silver, what you're actually seeing presented in the price. I'm not talking about the iSilver Trust. Because for every 1 ounce that you own that you want to get delivered, there's 20 other ounces that are guaranteed, which means only 1 out of 20 are going to get guaranteed. Well, they're not guaranteed, but only 1 out of, they're guaranteed until they run out of supply. And they've only got enough for 1 out of every 20 ounces purchased on SLV. Just remember that. This is not as hard of a game as it seems, folks. And I want to share something. If you didn't get to see my update about it before I leave, because I think it's important. Again, we had 100,000. We went down to 60-something thousand views yesterday on Facebook. And then we got back up to 99,400. So we've been crushing it. Trying to find the algorithm in a good way, but we picked up 1.4 million views in the last 10 days. I think there's been like 3,000 followers the last 10 days. It's pretty crazy, actually. So we'll see if that continues. Oh, wait a minute. I want to see if that continues. So if you're looking for some of this stuff, follow my Facebook. It's just popping. I mean, I got so much stuff. Now we're over 11,600 it went to. Wow, that's another 300 followers a day we picked up. That is simply incredible. I wish YouTube, I don't wish YouTube did, but I just want to read this real quick, though. This is something I posted, and some people are like, who writes these stories? I write these stories. I find it from Reddit, and then I use AI to reinvent it. That's how. And the one that I did, I only put the one on today, though, because I didn't want it to be overcrowded. But the one I did yesterday on Facebook got over 10,000 views. It's no joke. So, I mean, my stuff gets through pretty good on Facebook. I just put this one up this morning, though. It's got 249 views. Yeah, 17,000 views that has now. On YouTube, it got about 800. What the hell happened? So, what the hell's going on here? This thing, like, froze. Can we close that out? What the fuck's going on? Oh, it's Facebook's getting all... I don't know what's going on. Facebook decided it was going to have an issue. Facebook always has issues. Believe it or not. Yeah, look at this. It locked up. Thank you. But I want to read this nonetheless. So, where was the one from? Yeah, this one got a lot of attention yesterday. But this, I want to read this. So if you're still here, this is just make sure, should I buy gold or silver and I trust capital? It's a tough question. It's a tough question, which one? I mean, you have to make that decision. I haven't bought gold or silver bullion in a while. My mindset, but anyhow, let me read this and then we'll go back into metals before I log off. I promise we'll go back into metals because I want to look at PLG. I know a lot of people are going to leave, but just think about this. This was a story on Reddit. I just set it up a little bit different. Used all the facts, but I used AI to help me, fill in the blanks so that it would be more with the pricing and the numbers and stuff to make it look better. So the XRP wick that erased my life. The LED on my monitor is blinking blue. The only light in the room right now, it feels less like a status indicator and more like a taunt. I am staring at my trade history completely paralyzed. And the reason I want more people to see this is because leverage trading can definitely, I've seen it too many times in my time on YouTube. So it just more people need to talk about this. The quantity was 145,000 XRP. And watch the pricing that this person did this at and think of what it would be worth, not just today, but if they would have waited for $3 or $3.50. Long, 25x leverage, status closed, reason for close, forced liquidation, the euphoria phase. My name is Marcus, and only 6 hours ago, I was convinced I had mastered the market. After weeks of technical analysis, tracing triangles, and monitoring for a golden cross, I was certain the breakout was imminent. I wasn't just looking for a successful trade, I was looking for a life-altering exit strategy. In an act of total overconfidence, I transferred my entire savings, the result of 3 years of disciplined work, into my margin account. I told myself that if XRP reached $1.20, I would be retired. I was so certain of the upward trajectory that I bypassed setting a stop loss, fearing stop hunting bots. I believed I could outsmart the algorithm. 120 seconds of volatility. The collapse occurred while I was away from my desk. A notification pinged on my phone. I checked the price. 88 cents, 84 cents, 79 cents. By the time I returned to my desk, the dashboard displayed a red candle so steep it looked like a technical error. It was a scam wick, a momentary flash crash designed to flush out leverage positions. The price dropped to 72 cents for approximately 4 seconds. My liquidation price was 74 cents. I watched my available balance evaporate in real time. 38,000, 21,000, 4,000 to eventually zero. The aftermath of indifference, there was no fanfare or alarm. The chart simply continued its movement, utterly indifferent to my loss. Within 5 minutes, XRP recovered to 86 cents as if the crash had never happened. The market moved on, but my savings were gone, absorbed into the exchange's insurance fund. I am currently struggling. In my opinion on that stuff is when you get liquidated, the exchange just buys the token you get liquidated from, and they just have it sitting there for all eternity until they want to make a big sale. So they don't even need to buy crypto. They just add to it based on your liquidations on leverage trading. I firmly believe that. I'm currently struggling to process the reality of the situation. I have a shift starting in 4 hours. I have to face my children and carry the weight of knowing their college fund was lost on a 15-minute candle. The most painful aspect isn't the financial loss, it is the crushing guilt. I was aware of the risk and the warning regarding high leverage, yet I convinced myself I was an exception to the rule. I thought I was the protagonist of this story. In reality, I was simply liquidity for someone else's exit. And it's interesting. But I posted the actual me reading this story this morning, and it's like 250 views. But it takes time to get through Facebook. But it's been an interesting journey on Facebook, I must say. We've had in the last, I think it's like 10 days, because this channel it's not even that old. Yeah, 1.3 million in the last 14 days. It's been pretty crazy. We're at 4,000 the 10th, and this is when I started the channel a few weeks before that, and then it just started picking up steam, and then 101, 121, 90, 97, 69, 171, 194, 69, 99. We're trying to find a baseline here. If 60,000 is a baseline for the lowest views, I'm going to be a very happy person. I'm not monetized on here, so I can't even get paid on here as far as advertising. My channel's not old enough. But by the time I do, it's going to go and do it with a bang for some advertising revenue. I'll tell you that much. For 100,000 views or 1,000,000 views, that's about $100. So that would have been about $180 just for the views in the last 14 days, which would have been nice. That's nice revenue to keep building the content front. But, I'm trying to expand what I do. And I always thought if I did more of a satire / technical / and I can't do it on YouTube because I don't want that front. But this is literally the chaos, expect conspiracies, wild theories, and satire, unfiltered speculation. And then the serious side, you go to my YouTube channel. And this has picked up 11,000 followers in about a month and a half. So we'll see what ends up happening here if I can continue this momentum. Obviously, I had a video that had 100,000 views or some piece of content that got a lot of, like 6,000 followers or 5. There was a lot of followers from one thing. So we'll see if it falls into place, but I stand behind what I do. And if you want a little bit of fun and not just the charts, go look at that stuff. I know a lot of people left this morning. What the hell is he talking about? And he said he was leaving 20 minutes ago. Well, that's the beauty of just sticking around. PLG was up 18% on Friday. Well, 20% with after hours, 18.8 in regular time. The day before was up about 10%. On the week, in the last 5 days, up 27%. Year to date, it's up 41% is PLG since January 1st. Fortunately, me and MQ were telling everybody to buy it around Christmas when it was around the 238, 242 area. So it's been a healthy gain already for everybody who bought. Even in the new year, you could have been up 40%. But we'll see how this plays out. Even in the last year still, now it's up 153%. But a lot of that's been helped out. Again, it was up like 89% when we were talking about it. And we're like, this is just so undervalued. And I believe platinum compared to gold still has a lot of room. But I'm going to go. I want to go hang out. My mom's here. I want to make sure my son's good. Other than that, be blessed. I appreciate your time. And, for the ones who stick around, you are so far ahead of this market this weekend. You don't even have to do anything else. You can go have some coffee, go enjoy yourself. The ones who haven't paid attention, they have no idea what's going on. They have no idea why the market's red when they assume it should be going green. They have no idea what these pennants are. They have no idea what those descending triangles are a little bit below.